Give it another minute or so, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. Thank you to everyone who has joined us for this meeting. If you could mute your speakers so we don't get any feedback during the meeting, so the presenter right now, Michael, or myself when I'm speaking, can be able to speak and not have that awkward feedback. That would be great. Thank you all.
Taylor, I'm ready when you are.
Few more people coming in. I think we can go ahead and get started. Alrighty, well, thank you all for coming. This is a additional Oak Farms Transportation Corridor Study final recommendation meeting that we've put together to kind of try to address some of the questions and comments that we got from the last meeting, as well as some of the technical difficulties that we were struggling with. So we're going to go ahead and jump in it. In our meeting today, we'll have Michael as well as guests from the city of Dallas speaking. So I'm going to go ahead and start advancing the slides. Michael, when you're ready, you can go ahead.
Taylor, thank you very much. We really appreciate the time that the councilman has given us with regard to commenting on this particular study. There's opportunities to make sure we're being especially sensitive to impacts related to neighborhood streets. We'll talk about that in a moment. I'm interested in getting Gus's reaction and path forward with regard to the different city departments that have to weigh in. The councilman also brings up two additional items. We're hopefully creating a new vision for the viaducts, and as a result, there's what we call spaghetti structures that potentially can be reused for vistas and other things that are available. I believe all that is under city control because of the agreement that the city has from previous historical agreements they have with TxDOT. Gus can weigh in with regard to that. I think there also is a major opportunity of integrating the park system all the way to the Trinity River, and what is the best way to do that over time. So this has turned into a terrific opportunity with regard to a park component that I think is number two to the councilman's wish for conversation. And all of that is gets impacted by what we do on the transportation side. So to recap, if we go ahead and implement our vision with regard to the viaducts, which I hope we do, and we go ahead and make sure whatever structures the city wishes to use for vistas and other potential opportunities, there may be an interesting opportunity with regard to parks. And instead of transportation dictating everything, does the park idea or the vista idea influence the transportation side? So that's the process we're going to go through. If you look at this particular slide, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, the city of Dallas and the Regional Transportation Council staff and their consultants have focused on two parts of the network in an integrated fashion. We've focused on the regional connections, which is what we're going to talk about today. The city has worked on the local connections. We happen to luck out and through competitive procurements have the same consultant. So you'll see a very well integrated elements. But what we're focusing on today is the regional elements. So we want to rethink how the viaduct should be used. I think we have agreement from all of our other public meetings on that particular process. We're going to talk about what the impact is for further development in the Oak Farms area. You'll see us specifically trying to integrate access to that development north-south, heading south. And we'll show that to you in a moment. The state has won $30 million in bridge funds to redo the viaducts. That project is going to happen with or without the recommendations that we have today. But if we do have specific recommendations, we don't want to put money repairing bridge viaducts that eventually will be replaced for our Jefferson recommendations. And we are going to spend some time with regard to the impact to the grid, and we'll highlight that for you very clearly. So to recap the viaducts, if you remember, you go out there today on the next slide, you have this southbound movement on the Houston Street Viaduct, and you have a northbound movement on the Jefferson Viaduct. I've lived in the region for over 40 years. I've often thought this is a very awkward situation. You get somewhat lost by the Eddie Bernice Johnson Union Station, and then you find yourself crossing the river from downtown, and you never really intended to do that. I've done that on more than one occasion. So the new plan that were implemented that we seem to have a lot of consensus on, that's not the purpose of our meeting today, is to go ahead and eventually create a 2-track streetcar as the network expands by the city of Dallas, and turn the rest of the Houston Street Viaduct into a pedestrian component. So there will be no cars on that section. And then Jefferson Boulevard really becomes your backbone of thoroughfare street access from downtown into the Oak Cliff area. And you can see the components of that, a 4-lane facility that we have for that particular situation. Now that affects the width of the structure when you hit the Oak Cliff side, and we'll show that to you on a map. But really what gets complicated is how do we unravel the southbound movement from the Houston Street Viaduct and the northbound movement over to Jefferson Boulevard that we often call the spaghetti, the old leftover spaghetti network. So if you go to the next slide, we do, and I'll show you by map, remove these. If you go back one, we remove the legs of the previous structure. This is where the councilman wishes to potentially use some of that for Vista and other items. It's no longer going to be used for a roadway, but it could be used for a pedestrian platform or a Vista location. That would be up to, I believe, recommendations that would go through the city process as the roadway use is no longer needed. And then I've already laid out the viaducts. The city has already worked on streetcar expansion over to the pedestrian caps we have at the zoo. Gus's team worked that out, and that was presented in the last meeting. And then our recommendations are backed up by comprehensive planning direction from the city. We've done a lot of detailed traffic forecasts that I'll go over. The consultant has done traffic operations to size the intersections. And then the public feedback, we're seeking some clarification on as part of our conversation tonight. We received 44 comments. I felt uncomfortable finishing our study with still 44 comments of unclear direction. Councilmember West is in a similar position. He and I reached a conclusion that we need to go back to the public and seek some clarification. I'm trying to do that today. So we went back to review the public comments from October 29th, 2024, when we went out and had a public meeting in person. We then went and reviewed on the next slide the comments we received on August 12th. And I feel uncomfortable that we've reached the consensus needed to then be able to get final support on what it is we're doing with the viaducts. So I'll try to highlight that for you. I know we're going to get into the weeds here in a moment, but let me present these options to you so you understand the slight distinction that we are making. And I think this will go a long way to clarify the comments that we've received to date. And my initiation of this park extension notion to the Trinity River that I think the city should give some consideration to. And I think that conversation is beginning within the city. So if we go to the next slide, I think we can see a little clearer view. So remember, these are the two viaducts. The dark red is the sections of the Jefferson Viaduct that we have to replace in order to get the correct width. The purple is the spaghetti that we no longer are going to need with regard to the implementation of this particular configuration, that the councilman wishes to use some portions of that. And I don't want to speak for him, he can speak for himself, with regard to what would be good usage that the community may want for pedestrian or other bicycle access for some platform. I gotta make sure cars don't get on it as it interfaces with Jefferson. So you can see the connections that we have in Aqua. It reestablishes the grid that we have in that particular location. And you see the offset intersection. I don't know, Jeff or Taylor, if you can highlight it. The offset intersection that we have over there on the western side. We wish to not bring traffic south and into the neighborhood street. So you can see the Greenbrier lane does not extend directly into this particular facility. You can see this facility is now totally on the north side of the park. It doesn't touch the park in any way. We purposely offset it to minimize the impact we have to Greenbrier, and the Marsalis Zhang Boulevard connection is offset at those two intersections. Lots of focus has been put on bicycle and pedestrian connections. I think we have that resolved. And we have the facility down to one lane in each direction on the Zhang Boulevard Marsalis connection. Again, to make sure we're not creating too much traffic. And then we're north of Founders Park, but you still see this aqua colored roadway on the north side of the park. And you see this Trinity River located further to the north. And you see this purple structure that portions of it may be reused. And you can start to squint your eyes and see how Founders Park could be extended to the north, but you have potentially a thoroughfare street at that particular location. So that is one way to solve this particular connection. The rest of the 99% part of the transportation plan, we're not debating tonight. The one thing we are debating is this particular connection that I purposely put the question mark on. So you can see this one piece, this one small section. Is this a recommendation that we should make and make that connection, creating the offset intersection to be sensitive to Greenbrier? Or do we wish to be more sensitive to Greenbrier? Could have a fatal flaw. That's why I'm presenting it, where you don't make this connection. And then all the development in the Oak Farms area would have to go to the south to access the east-west thoroughfare street, or directly go over to Jefferson, and Jefferson becomes the spine of this particular improvement. And everything that is currently being used as major thoroughfares turns into what I would call a collector thoroughfare street system, especially if that connection is reduced. But I don't know if the fire department thinks this is a potential fatal flaw, and I don't know if the Parks Department says, oh man, this might be a home run that we may wish to do with regard to extending Founders Park to the north. That is why I'm consciously bringing this to the community directly. I think if you go to the next slide, this is simply to show the land ownership parcels and the new pump station. At the first public meeting, there was lots of conversations about how does the transportation system line up to parcels. We didn't design the transportation system to line up to parcels. We designed the transportation system to meet the goals of the community. It happens to line up very nicely with the parcels, so I don't think our transportation plan is hurting the ability of the city to develop this particular part of the community. Jeff wants me to remind everybody on the next slide. Remember when Jefferson Boulevard gets the new 6 or 7 segments of the bridge structure having to be replaced to make sure we have 4 lanes. We do want to make sure we have pedestrian access and other things when it hits the ground with regard to that particular service. So we can't get 4 lanes on the current Jefferson Viaduct, but once we get the last sections correctly to grade, I think Jefferson Boulevard would serve very nicely the function of the economic development corridor for that part of the region, giving the western side of the Oak Farms area back to the collector distributor system. And I presented really the last remaining question in my mind is what do we do with that particular connection, of which I'm all ears with regard to input from the councilman, input from Gus, any homework Gus has been able to do with regard to the impact of others in the city. And then the last slide, TxDOT is moving out on doing the bridge work. So you'll see a lot of bridge work on both viaducts with regard to, I would say, largely maintenance. The engineers that we have hired have prepared a detailed report to assist TxDOT that they're going to use. And then my job is to get this report completed by the end of the month to be able to move this now into the next phase, which would be to get TxDOT to start to do the bridge maintenance of the structures. Hopefully have them not waste too much money on the potential structures. Excuse me, the potential structures we need to do on Jefferson. Everything on Houston can proceed. The city would have to take the ball and use which part of the abandoned roadway sections they wish to retain. And then I think we need to give some time to the city to assess their interest with regard to the park system connection. But this is a terrific opportunity that I think maximizes economic development on the eastern side, moving that access to the south and to the freeway to the east, and given the opportunity for the existing neighborhoods to get a break from traditional traffic resulting from the spaghetti, to be able to get back to a collector distributor system with that one little section of question mark that we have for the public meeting. So Taylor, before we open it up for any comments or questions, I think we need to first ask Gus to respond and get Gus's reaction to what was said to date. And then I would love to hear, I know the council members juggling meetings, including his council meeting. If he has an opportunity to comment, adjust, suggest, would be helpful. And then I would love to turn it over to the public for a response. And I appreciate everyone coming back in short order after the last public meeting to seek a clarification. So Gus, if you would, can I turn it over to you for some comment?
Thank you so very much, and I really appreciate the NCT COG's great work on this. But before I get going, I see Mr. West has his hands up, so I will yield the floor to him. So, Mr. West.
Oh, thanks, Thanks, Michael and Gus. I was going to wait till after you, Gus, but happy to go now as well. I want to first thank you for making this a very clear presentation, Michael, and for also honing in on, I mean, you guys really honed in on what the issues were from the last meeting, which we're so much closer now to the final product. And I don't know if we're 100% there, but I can tell you really listen to the community and address the concerns from the people who live on the ground in this area, which I very much appreciate. The only thing that I really have to add at this point personally is on the overlook that is in this picture that you highlighted in maroon. That is an area that, like I had mentioned, I'm like I think neighbors as well. I'm open to that staying as a pedestrian, like overlook kind of connecting piece, or possibly coming down and being parkland or developable land. Would love to know, have like a little bit of multiple options if that's something that's feasible, just to kind of understand if it came down, how many acres would be developable, how many acres could be converted to parkland to continue Founders Park, and just to see a little more design work, I guess, in that sector. And then the last thing I'll say is that I have spoken with Parks department about extending Founders Park, and they are 100% interested without reservation. So we have parkland dedication money available for this type of acquisition, and we need more parks close to downtown. So this would be very welcome to connect Founders to the Trinity. So that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Mr. Gus. Thank you, Councilman, for your time.
Thank you. I mean, this is
busy.
yeah, this is great input. But for clarification, are we talking about the Jefferson connection, sir? That you mentioned?
I think that
the maroon right there, above the question mark, that sort of maroon purple.
The part that's being abandoned.
The demolition.
Oh, I just want to make sure that we're talking about the purple and not the maroon, because I mean, or the way I'm
He's talking
looking
about
at
the
it is,
purple.
all right. So because
So
that is
instead,
the Jefferson.
our vision all along was, and I think the councilman's correcting us, we would tear down the hatched purple area because it's no longer functioning as a roadway section. What the councilman is saying, there may be parts of the purple that he agrees will no longer be a functioning roadway section. I believe he supports the viaduct position. But do you want to use any of that as a vista or something that you may wish to use? Now, if the councilman is saying, I'm going to connect it to the Houston Viaduct somehow, I think that may be somewhat problematic since all the pedestrian movements are on the other viaduct. But if you can see downtown and you can say, integrate this from the park, and you actually go up there and you could, sit up there and see, maybe the structure wouldn't necessarily have to come down. It actually may be integrated into the park, I think is what the councilman is suggesting.
That's exactly right. Like it's, if the purple hatch area, if there's any part of that might be worth saving, and we could reallocate funding to another, to more trail or park enhancements, if there's some savings that could be found in addition to making that an interesting element within the area, like let's look at it, but certainly don't hold up the project or give away green space to keep that area. This was a suggestion by a neighbor, and I thought it's certainly interesting, worthwhile of exploring it given the time constraints we have.
Okay, great. Don?
Yes, Gus, if you need to go ahead and do your presentation, I can wait till afterwards. But it is
Go ahead.
I'm representing my community, which is the Trinity Townhomes. So not really in the capacity of a city employee. So
So I'd
Well,
hold off.
once you-
I would hold off. I need Gus
Yeah,
to go.
let's go. We'll let Gus. But I could.
I need Gus. I
yeah.
need Gus to finish up the whatever he wishes to say on the presentation,
Absolutely.
and then we will have Taylor walk us through the public involvement process.
Well, again, thank you, Michael. Again, the presentation is spot on. Obviously, we've got the basic concepts of the conversion of Houston into the pedestrian transit and bicycle facility, and the Jefferson Boulevard becoming the main vehicular connection into downtown. And the current plans on the convention center will reflect that as we remove and reconstruct a portion of the Jefferson Market connection into downtown to accommodate that future movement. As far as the connections here, I think based on the feedback that we've heard from our community and our stakeholders, is that we agree that a direct vehicular connection into Greenbrier is not on the table, and the provision that is currently shown here is a good start, whereby we're allowing for a connection to be teed into Zhang in case the future vehicular movement volumes accommodate or require that, and to ensure that Greenbrier, because Greenbrier is currently on our bike plan, to have a good connection into the system, whether it be in Houston Viaduct, as well as connectivity into the future Oak Farm area, as well as the connection into the park that is in that area. That's high level, basically, of where we think and we recommend what we're recommending as far as that connection is concerned. But other than that, I mean, again, as Councilmember West mentioned, is we're almost there and just need to make the final refinements.
So Gus, just so I can make sure I follow, you're 100% supportive of not having a connection into Greenbrier. That's
Correct.
no longer on the table.
Correct.
And having this last thoroughfare street connection, I think it's one lane in each direction. It's something small.
Correct.
And creating an offset intersection.
Correct.
Go ahead and build the aqua colored roadway, but do it in a way that doesn't permit any traffic to be able to get over to Greenbrier as part of that process, is what you're suggesting.
Correct. I mean, basically, at this point, is all movement to be one lane in each direction, to connection to T into Zhang, the way you're showing it right now.
And then the park, we're north of the park. My hope would be you then extend the park from the north side of that thoroughfare connection and use whatever structure you wish to use that actually could be part of the park. It could be an amenity of the park, that structure. Obviously, it wouldn't connect necessarily all the way all the way over to Jefferson, but you could then make the pedestrian connections from Greenbrier to the Trinity River and to the new non-roadway Houston Viaduct, all with a potential new park that goes all the way to the Trinity River. And that
Yes, sir.
whole previous roadway connection, the spaghetti connection, actually could be turned back over as potential parkland. And I think it's an interesting concept that the
Correct.
development occurs and it flows to the east and south. And then the neighborhoods are returned with more what I would call neighborhood scale park and neighborhood scale transportation connections.
Yes, sir. Spot on.
Okay, I think that's the end of our presentation. Now we need to hear that I'm trying to get our report completed by the end of the month. I now turn it over for public comments for anyone to weigh in with regard to this. So, Jackie, I don't know if you want to call on people or we just let People put their hands up. It's a little less formal than a normal public meeting, but we turn it back over to you.
Yes, you also. I think we'll just go ahead and I think Don Rains had his hand up and we'll just click on folks who put their hands up and let everyone get a chance to speak and ask questions.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Last I had checked, I remember when we had had a follow-up meeting, Mr. Morris, about after October of last year in November, there was an option 7 that was brought to the table, and we thought that came very close. It was where Brazos Street basically, and I could show it to you if you'd like for me to share the screen, but Brazos Street basically teed into Zang. Instead of Marsalis going into it. And I think the reason why we thought that from our community, I'm speaking from a few others, is we felt that the east-west movement was very important for Greenbrier to come to Zang, do a bit of a zigzag on Zang, and then turn on to Brazos to get that connection to Jefferson for the downtown connection. Less desire of going down Marsalis. We thought Marsalis was going to tee into Brazos itself. Because if we don't really need another north-south motion. If we wanted to go south, we would just stay on Zang and go south. But the idea was to have Greenbrier and Brazos sort of work in unison together with the stop.
Jeff Neal,
at
Jeff
Zang.
Neal, are you able to pull
It's
up?
option 7, and we had a slight variation
Hold
of
on,
option 7.
hold on, Don.
Sure.
We're trying to use visuals. Jeff Neal, can you pull up option 7?
This
By
is
any
from,
I
chance?
believe I can.
if not, I got it.
Okay, why don't we find that map? Let's let Don just hold for a second. Let's go on to the next comment and we'll come back to Don's option 7. Is that option 7?
This is
Yes.
option 7, Michael.
That's not the 7 I know. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
actually it is. It is. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that is. That was, I thought our community, we were closer to that option. Where
Now,
we
I
just
think the
yeah,
problem,
that is correct.
my thinking is the problem with this option 7 is it goes through the park.
That is
Yes,
correct.
yes, there's a corner of Founders Park that's just grass. It's just basically mowing, and it would cut it through part of the park. But our thought was that even if you were to cut that portion of the park, with all the magenta that you see basically being repurposed, no longer commissioned as vehicular usage, that part of Marsalis basically would become rededicated as parkland itself. So you give up a little bit of a corner of Founders Park, but then what you gain in return is much larger.
Well, parkland, as you know, in an environmental has very, very special place.
We understand.
I'm not in the business of taking parkland when we build transportation.
It was a rededication was the thought. Is that you could, if you would,
Let me
Yeah.
just finish.
Sure.
So we thought the win-win situation would to be take the concept of option 7 and simply not run it through the park. Simply move it north of the park. So instead of getting into rededication and to get into a 4F and to get into potential legal lawsuit problems, we thought the better win-win would to be move it to the north, don't touch the park, and still create the offset intersection we're seeking with Greenbrier. Now, I'm not asking you to agree with it. I'm just saying our office didn't wish to run a roadway through the park. I'm just telling you why we
That was the
moved
reason.
the concept is the same. It's
Yeah.
identical. It creates the offset intersection. It forces the connection to only be one lane in each direction. But that was the reason why we moved it a few feet to the north.
I understand. I guess I just look at that portion of the park as being unprogrammed. It doesn't do much more than a mowing opportunity in that
Well,
location, but I understand.
Yeah,
We'd have to talk
unfortunately,
to
there's no-
parks about
in
that. Yeah.
federal law, there's no distinction. There's no distinction
Okay.
that this part of the park isn't really good and this part of the park is really good. I'm not asking anyone to agree with me. That is the rationale that we didn't want to touch the park. I don't think you lose anything with regard to the sensitivity we're bringing to Greenbrier. I really don't. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Well, I think our thought is that Brazos would be really Brazos and Greenbrier both act as an east-west corridor. And then we didn't really want it to connect as a direct connection to Marsalis because it's just another north-south connection. That was the thought, but I'll let other community members talk about that.
Yeah, let's go to the next commenter, maybe person number
Luke.
one.
Yes, Luke Mallinson, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yep, thank you. Can we bring the picture back up that we had of the roadway?
From the original presentation, Luke?
No, the one from today's presentation, your proposed alternative.
Yeah, so bring up the Taylor, bring up the presentation that has probably the map without the question mark, and then we'll see the comment that the public, what Luke wishes to comment. We'll go to the map and see if that's what you wish to comment on. Right there.
Yeah, that works. So as you take Marsalis and you hit the T with Zhang, is a proposal that you have one lane to the north to connect you into Greenbrier? Okay.
Jeff Neal, do you have the lane configuration for that intersection in your mind?
Yes, it would be one lane in each direction for all streets coming to that intersection, whether it's Zhang, Marsalis, or Greenbrier.
Got it. I think what I heard at the public meeting, and certainly my opinion, is Greenbrier going Greenbrier to Zhang south, one lane of traffic. Marsalis to Greenbrier on Zhang north, no vehicular traffic. If you want to get to Beckley, you take Colorado to get over. But we don't want to encourage traffic from this new development to use Greenbrier as a cut through, because then it drives traffic either to Beckley or worse yet in East Custer. We're worried about cut through to get to Sylvan so that people can get to 30 eastbound. So we would prefer to push that where there's no northbound Zhang traffic from Marsalis to Greenbrier, only southbound.
So if that's the position, go to the next slide with the question mark. Why would you build that connection? What's the value of that connection?
You could save some money and not build it.
So your suggestion would be, if you can't build a southbound only connection from Greenbrier, because I got to deal with safety implications of that. Who wishes to take a right and say, okay, I'm going to go down the one-way street to get over to my two-way street? So we'd have to be here careful. The reason why we introduced the question mark is that too much to be able to bite off for the community by not making the connection at all? And then I think you would be satisfied if you're an advocate of Greenbrier, you'd be satisfied without the connection at all. Or does a one-lane road in each direction create enough of a win-win situation? That's where the community has to resolve itself to give us direction. What I keep telling our staff, I don't want to lose the viaducts as a result of this connection. You see what I mean? My whole 90% of what I'm interested in is the viaducts, and to be able to be 100% as sensitive as I possibly can at this particular location. This facility no longer is a regional facility. So our office is Switzerland with regard to this. But I'm not going to abandon Gus with him trying to figure out what's the interest of the Parks Department, what's the interest of the Fire Department, what's the interest of the Homeowners Association. So I'm hanging in there with him to try to, you build a southbound only connection and open yourself up to some safety situations? Do you not build that one block and support the transition of the park? Or by creating the offset intersection, and as Jeff Neal says, all three legs are one lane in each direction. Does that satisfy enough the community? And that's exactly why we're back here at a public meeting.
And if I may comment, Michael, I mean, I really appreciate the input. This has a safety implication for us and the emergency response and all that stuff. So we can do a lot of, we have flexibility on the operation of the connection, but the provision for it has to be in.
If I was the fire department, I would want that particular connection. And I believe by designing it with only one lane in each direction, I believe, especially if we can provide the access to get from this development south and use the major east-west thoroughfare street to the south. Jeff, you remind me what that is?
Colorado Boulevard.
Colorado Boulevard becomes your east-west boulevard. I don't know why anyone, especially if we design this with two offset intersections, would bother to make this connection and cut through Greenbrier.
I think you see a lot of cut-through traffic today on Greenbrier for that very reason, and it's one lane each way. But you see a lot of people zipping through. We would like to minimize that at all possible.
I agree with you 100%. I think your cut-through traffic is because of this junior freeway that's in maroon that connects to Greenbrier that we're getting rid of. Just remember that.
I think those same people are going to take the new viaduct on what do you guys call this, Jefferson, cut across, and then zip on over. That's what I would do if I'm coming out of downtown and I want to get over to Beckley. I'm going to take Jefferson, zip on that connector, hit Marsalis, hit Zang, hit Greenbrier, and zip through. So that's what we're trying to push back on. If you were to take that section from Marsalis to Greenbrier, it could be a parking lot as an entrance to the pedestrian area. We could do all sorts of other things with it, but that would be my ask, is to nix that. I think the fire department and fire service are all going to be coming from the station that's over off of Beckley. So they're coming in from the other side. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mallinson. I think the next person would be Ms. Desiree.
Hey, good evening. Desiree Delaney here. I just have a question. Again, if we're discussing eliminating the option, because today we cannot go north on Zang to get to Greenbrier, but if that's not going to be an option with these changes in the viaducts coming in from downtown, we are now only going to have one-way entrance into Greenbrier off of Beckley. And I think that's also going to be a limiting, at least for me as a resident, a limiting factor, because now Jefferson's not going to be an option coming in from downtown for me to get to my property. And I will have to cut through either go up Zang to Colorado and then back down to Beckley. It's a major inconvenience. And also it sounds like it would limit my ability to get to Jefferson as well. So I have concerns about not having a north option, being able to get to Greenbrier from here. I do like the proposal with this T intersection, but I would like the option of having a north entrance.
So if I follow that, you want some of the purple to remain, is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying the blue where you have the question mark, the blue, and it comes into the T, the option to turn north onto Zang so that I can access Greenbrier.
So you like, go back one slide.
Option one. So
you like this. You like this option.
I personally like this option. For ease.
I don't mean to reinforce a point. I just want to make sure I understand your point. Yep. You like this option.
Yes. If this gives the northbound access on Zang to Greenbrier. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Beverly Mendoza, you can go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. I have a couple of concerns. I would not like that 2-lane area that cuts the park off from the Trinity corridor. I think if we focus on park and pedestrian activity, then which we don't typically do, I think it will just make for a better community. And people can work around finding new ways. I am sensitive to the last commenter's comment about getting around. I'm concerned about the traffic that's going to be on Colorado because it divides Founders from Lake Cliff Park. And what we are trying to do as Lake Cliff neighborhood, we are trying to provide more connectivity between the two, but there are 4 lanes there. I don't know how to slow down traffic if we need those crazy things we see on Oak Lawn or Cedar Springs, but we need to find a way to make pedestrian traffic between the two more safe and viable. So that's really, and my focus is park driven. And as I wrote in the comments, we as a neighborhood have been pushing for several decades to get 929 North Marsalis back into parkland, into Founders Park. It was a long time goal of buying properties around Founders Park and returning that area to parkland. But that could be a tremendous area for all the people who are moving in here. It's unreal.
So just so I can follow, do you like this section that we're flagging? Because I think Gus can take up your comment with regard to how to provide better, safe pedestrian crossing further to
Colorado.
the south.
I do not like where you had the question mark, that connectivity from Marsalis to Zhang.
So your
it creates
desire is to have this section in or not to have this section in?
not
No.
because it creates
Okay.
a barrier. It creates a barrier.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. We have Ashley Bird. She's had her hand up for a second. Ashley, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to kind of echo the sentiments of thanks and appreciation for the great presentation and kind of all the thought that's gone into the project this far. And we live on Greenbrier and definitely understand the concern for being able to connect from the viaduct, the Jefferson viaduct back to Greenbrier. And I think we do like that connection, but kind of echoing what Don said, and I completely understand that it's a difficult conversation to have with the Parks Department and land and all that stuff. But I think pushing that connection maybe just a little bit further south across Brazos would also help to kind of slow the traffic down on that street, because right now, like everybody has said thus far, people are using it as a cut through and they are absolutely flying through Greenbrier to get over to Zhang, or they're coming off of the viaduct and flying over to get to Beckley. So if there would be any way to kind of keep that connection, but again, push it further south, and then use some potential traffic calming on that connection in a way that would still help provide the connectivity between the park. I think that would be that'd be what we'd like to see.
I appreciate your comment. You understand our sensitivity of not trying to build a roadway into the park. You understand that it's a Sophie's choice situation, right? Your desire is to move the connection further to the south, as was originally said by Don, but you understand our sensitivity to not grab something that would have us be in court for some time. You see what I mean? So it's
Absolutely.
yeah.
And Michael, if I may comment again, I support the notion again, because of the federal funds and the federal approval and so on, that we need to stay away from the park. But certainly the comment that was made here by the last person, certainly the traffic calming options and treatments, if you will, are definitely on the table for that little connection.
Yeah, so for example, Gus, you could come over to this particular facility and you don't need a dedicated right turn lane. There's a way we can design the intersections that are going to say, I'm not going to bother here to make this connection. I'm going to go down. Now our traffic simulation is significantly lower when we get rid of the spaghetti part of this particular situation. And I think if we can at least get through some resolution of the comments, because we seem to have a lot of people in 3 different camps. If we can get some resolution of this particular item, then we can actually go to the RTC to design it and put in those traffic calming elements, Gus, and actually then get a partnership with the Parks Department and actually see what the vision may be with regard to the more comprehensive view that the councilman is asking us to take. Let's go to the next commenter. Make sure we get to everyone.
Our next commenter is going to be Antoine Joyce. Antoine, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you. It's probably going to be shorter than I planned because Ashley, we live in the same community, and she kind of hit it on the head already. Some of the concerns. I represent the HOA here as well. So I wanted to just come at it, and forgive me. I thought this was at 6:30, so I missed the presentation in the beginning. So if I say something that was already addressed, I apologize. But I wanted to come from another angle. I also am on the board of Trinity Park Conservancy. Where, as many of you know, we're tasked to build the Harold Simmons Park, which is between the 2 Margaret Bridges. One conversation that we're looking at is how does our park will connect to the other parks. There's the other one down by the bottoms that is now going to be accessible by the cement trail that was built in the levees, and also thinking about how does our park connect to Founders Park, which connects to Colorado Park. So when I look at the Greenbrier connection, I get very worried around more traffic coming down Greenbrier and connecting that hot spot where more traffic of pedestrians can be. Also thinking about the plans that were set in motion around the new convention center and the thoughts of the bridge becoming a pedestrian bridge where the trolley is at. So again, you're creating more pedestrian traffic on that bridge at that intersection. And as Ashley said, Greenbrier is a speedway right now that has no calming measures, has no stop signs, no lights or anything like that. It's just a straight shot from Beckley on down to Zhang. So that's part of my main concern again, and I second everything Ashley said as well. So I would love to see that Greenbrier connection be moved somewhere south as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Antoine Joyce. We're going to move to Laura Ryan. Laura, you can unmute yourself. Speak.
Thank you. So I'm a neighbor of several people who have commented here, including Ashley and Antoine and Desiree. I recognize the struggle that we have here and the thoughtfulness that everyone has put into this. I do clearly understand why you would not want to cut a road through a park. I also don't want Greenbrier to be a speedway. I also want to get to Jefferson Boulevard because I need to go downtown and it's inconvenient not to be able to access it. So there are all of these options that if we pick one, it creates a real problem for somebody else. So I really do understand the dilemma. I believe the least problematic is probably to support what Desiree said earlier, which is keep this intersection the way you have created it, but then also create some things on Greenbrier itself to be traffic calming. And I don't know what those are, and I, can't make any comment on that, but something to slow the traffic down, but also allow people the practicality of getting to downtown on Jefferson without cutting through the park. So those are my comments.
So you understand the win-win-win that we're trying to get. And Gus, there's no reason why we couldn't add, it would fall, I don't want to speak for you, but putting in calming measures down Greenbrier would be an item for the city to take up as part of this recommendation. that's an item you can take up with the councilman, I suppose, is the process. Gus, is that right? I'm sorry, you're muted.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
So I don't mind that being part of the recommendation because you're right. I'm trying to seek this win-win-win situation. Not go to federal court over the park, create the offset intersection. If someone wants to make the trip, they can in both directions, but do everything we can that does not force this to be a high volume connection by turning all the lanes into one lane in each direction and making sure we're not using operational improvements like dedicated right turn lanes and other things to make it easier. And you gain the minimum level of service to make sure the connection can be made, where the more regional user is going to be back on the freeway system and not part of the thoroughfare street system is the hope. Now, the simulation is showing that. The simulation is showing moving the traffic over to Houston and trying to create Houston as the north-south thoroughfare and trying as best we can return the thoroughfare street system to a collector distributor. At least the computer simulation over time is supporting that, especially when the consultant went in and did the traffic operations with Jeff Neal to not maximize the capacity of those intersections. But that would be solved in the next step. But I got to get to the next step in order to solve those particular items. But I appreciate your comments. Taylor?
Thank you. Yes, we're going to go with Jenny Stolarski next to speak, and after that, Val Houskell, and then finally, Don Rains. I want to make sure we get to everyone who wants to speak, and you all get to voice your opinions. So I know Val Houskell's on a phone call, so I'm going to go ahead and let Jenny speak, and then after Val, and then Don.
Thank you very much. The purpose of my comments is to support this alternative, the option one that we're seeing here. I have a tiny bit of additional commentary that I want to add, which I think it's important at this moment in this call, especially if it's recorded, to acknowledge the efforts and work of Audrey Pinkerton, who really galvanized the neighborhood around getting together to make the prior version of this map. So she really helped us understand what we needed as a community. And I think the work that's been done since then has helped us understand the small nuances and the pieces that we couldn't know from a what happens if we cut off the park perspective, or what happens if we move this 5 feet perspective. So thank you for all of that you brought. I think one of the crucial things in this one that I want to say that I appreciate is it still leaves connectivity to Greenbrier to be able to reach parts south, like Lake Cliff, like Founders Park, like whatever new happens in the Oak Farms area. And it allows us, as Laura said, to get back into downtown for so many people who have moved to this exact area for the convenience to downtown. But with those additional calming measures, I think we would really see, between that and this map, I think we'd really see a huge improvement in slowdown in traffic on Greenbrier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Val?
I'm coming. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation as well. I appreciate the efforts to calm Greenbrier. Having lived on Greenbrier for a decade and seeing its use increase over the years and the accidents and speeding, I really appreciate you taking into consideration our concerns as a neighborhood for the need to have calming measures and to not be an even greater thoroughfare. So I super appreciate that. I'd love to see more connectivity to the parks. That's one of the best things about living in that area. So I think that is a wonderful effort as well. I hope that you can achieve some of Beverly Mendoza's goals too. I'm not sure how, but I leave that to all of you. And I also wanted to turn it over now to Lorraine Polk, who's on the phone and is not online. I don't know exactly, Elizabeth, how you do that, but she is on the phone and unmuted.
Sure, please go. Please, you can speak.
Hi, am I connected?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay. Wow, there's so much to say. I've actually made an outline, but I'll try and keep it to a minimum. I have lived on Greenbrier for almost 30 years, and I'm the closest resident to the Beckley Greenbrier intersection. First of all, I say it's one thing to look at an aerial map, and it's another thing to be on the ground. And how can I describe Greenbrier? One is it's a hellish soundscape, and anyone who wants to come and stay in my yard for the day, I have a table and chair and shade, and you can take it all in. And 30 years ago, the city, the big push was to make Greenbrier, which was light industrial at that time, into a walkable neighborhood with multiple apartment complexes. And the city came in and built really great street and flood control and sidewalks. Then the apartments came, and then the people start coming out. And recently we've had two devastating collisions at the intersection of Beckley and Greenbrier. And people are retreating. They do not want to go near this area because the traffic is so bad. And I'd also point out that we're a hospital district, so we have people that are on crutches or wheelchairs, etc. And it is just a mad zone. And I would like planners to come, and not the ones who live on Greenbrier, but others, to come and really soak it all in. And to consider that when someone says it's a Sophie's choice to put a roadway in a park, that I don't care for that analogy, number one. But the second is the city had a plan, and it started 30 years ago, and it was to make Greenbrier a walkable neighborhood. And so all the components are here, except now we're talking about adding more cars, and there are no traffic measures. There's no enforcement. And the other thing I want to tell you about Greenbrier is the reason people use this as a thoroughfare, and it's an uncontrollable thoroughfare, is because it's fun. Greenbrier is a beautiful, sinuous road, tree-lined. And because of the apartments, if you have a car with a loud exhaust, it creates a sound canyon. So every person who has, a souped-up car or truck, etc., loves to race up and down Greenbrier because it's just fun, and there is no, there aren't even any speed limits posted. There's no enforcement. And so I'm saying, how do we create a master plan, this win-win-win scenario, without knocking back all the work the city has already tried to accomplish in the last 30 years? And the other thing about this issue about, the Sophie's Choice analogy is that, oh no, if we go with this plan that Dawn is proposing, that, there's going to be uproar over parkland interference. Well, the way you get around that is you contact a state senator and you do carve-outs, just like Senator Hutchison did for the Trinity River project. So the thing is, going to the senators or state representatives or whoever you need to ask for help, that the public that are on this side of it, which is do we want a pedestrian friendly neighborhood and one that is respectful, that it's also a hospital zone? I think you would have their support. You would have mine. But this design as is it's really frightful. It's horrifying. And it's the connector that I'm talking about. And it's just going to be fuel. It's just like opening a spigot of traffic onto Greenbrier. And I like the idea that Dawn brought up about Brazos flowing into Greenbrier. This is a natural solution, and it built on the city's past successes. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. LeRae. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dawn. We have a few minutes left. Thank you for everyone who's stayed on. I think Dawn will be probably our last speaker, and we'll close out for the evening.
And I'm not sure if the group wants to see the Trinity Townhomes concepts that my neighbors and I have talked about, but we have a concept in place that we'd like to be able to discuss. But if that's not the time, I can do another time if up to the group. And actually, thanks, LeRae. Actually, the idea was Brazos kind of not going straight into Greenbrier, but going into Zhang so that we won't have that connection. Can I share my screen or not? Or are we out of time?
Oh, you can do whatever you wish.
Okay, yeah, I'll be very quick.
I'm
okay?
sensitive to the time that everyone has, but
No, I understand. And if people need to go, we can go at that too. And this is from last November. This is what we thought we were going to get when we were discussing about trying to maybe potentially have Brazos do this. We understand now the sensitivity of the park, and maybe we can come up with other ideas of how to get around it. But the ideas that I heard from my community was basically, is there any way to maybe potentially keep this portion of the overpass? And then here's the idea is that could you get down to a 26-foot width of Greenbrier versus a 37-foot width? Right now, the lanes are 18.5 feet each.
okay, I'm totally
Can we
lost.
stop at that?
You need to
Okay.
back up.
All right, sir.
I lost you at you want to keep the roadway connection. I don't understand how that helps you. Go back one slide.
We do not want to keep, we want to
Well,
keep
why
the
did-
structure of.
Okay,
of
we already
roadway.
said we're going to keep the structure, right?
Okay, then I'll stop. Sure.
We said earlier the structure, as long as we don't put cars on it,
Yeah, it's
the
decommissioned.
structure can stay and it can be integrated into the park and be part of your vista.
Correct.
But the comment isn't you want somehow a roadway connection, right?
No, we were still showing the connection of what we thought was the 7 option from last November of Brazos Street.
I'm gonna get to that. I gotta do them one at a, Don, I can't do everything at one time. I'm
All
not
right, I'll
as
stop.
smart as you.
That's fine. That's okay.
Go
We'll
back
stop.
one slide. Go back
All
one
right.
slide,
All right.
just so I can follow you.
This
The
is from
purple
my,
structure that you just commented on, you wish to remain, but you don't want cars on it.
exactly. And
Okay.
It actually cuts off before it gets to Jefferson, so it is not connected. It is
So we are in
de-
agreement.
a-
I
a
said,
de- a- yeah, it's a decommission, just like Ron Kirk pedestrian bridge. I worked on that project too. So
just
that's
like I said before,
right.
whatever portion or portions of that structure the community wishes to have will be under the control of the city. The
Yes, I
city,
understand.
I believe, has the legal rights to do that.
It's
So
exact-
point number 1, we think that's a great idea.
Okay,
Now,
that's good to hear. I
point
can-
number 2, I want everyone to understand. You're making a thoroughfare street connection over to the same roadway the other connection is being made to. Right? You have
Right.
this connection.
This
This
is
connection is,
Mhm.
this connection is, I don't know, 300 feet, 200 feet south of the other connection.
correct.
Both concepts have that roadway connection.
That's true.
Your perception is somehow this one is unbelievably better than the other one.
Because the reason why is what's you're preserving the park. We're looking at trying to preserve the structure. The structure has a point where it meets the ground here where the railing is. that's just prior to the park in that area right there. So there's a little bit of a tight squeeze. But I think that this concept and your concept could, Gus's concept could actually work. It's just a matter of how we tweak it together. But the idea
Well, that's
is
the
that
win. That's the win-win I'm trying to see.
exactly.
Without taking parkland. But I
Right.
want other commenters to make. Someone said this is a travesty or something horrible.
Well,
I want everyone to know both concepts have a roadway connection. The debate is how far
south.
How far south is it?
Correct.
I want everyone to understand that's the debate we're having.
And the concept on this one here is basically shows a bit of a split here. We allow for the streetcar to continue as it is. The northbound lane does this and basically turns into Greenbrier. It's just a simple two lane. I know that we're showing a 3-lane, but I think our community would prefer a 2-lane Brazos Street because, we want to make sure that this walkability works between Founders Park and the Trinity when we get to a bigger picture itself. The idea is if you were to cut into Founders Park, you would also have the ability with the right-of-way to add Founders Park to this extension here because you remove Marsalis here, but you're able to keep Zhang and let that structure build up to something and cut it off before it gets to Jefferson. That allows for a pier deck. And frankly, I learned this, I got inspired by Providence, Rhode Island. They took out Interstate 195 and created a pedestrian park.
Okay, Don, just so you know, we're in 100% agreement with regard to that. We said that earlier in the meeting.
Yes, you did.
We're in 100% in agreement that we need to try to extend the park to the Trinity River.
It's just a matter of what's between here and here. That's all it is.
Jeff Neal has already indicated he's got 1-lane connections, not 2-lane connections like you have. He has 1-lane connections.
No, 1-lane connection, two lanes, one both directions.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we already have that in the recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Your desire is to cut the roadway through the park and increase the distance of the offset intersection versus don't touch Founders Park and still have the offset intersection. I just want to make sure everyone understands what we're saying.
Yes, it would cut into the existing Founders Park in this lawn area. It's relatively flat, this part, but it would also rededicate all this into Founders Park.
And our recommendation is to rededicate all of that where we happen to be the transportation experts, not the park experts.
Right.
We are suggesting as part of our recommendation that Gus engage the Parks Department to go ahead and see if the park can be extended to the Trinity River as part of our recommendation.
I think that's great. And I think, but just the concept, if y'all are willing to see, the ideas, if you had the ability to save this structure.
We are saving the structure. That is our recommendation.
Good. No, good. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll stop sharing then.
Okay. We turn it back over to you, Miss Jackie.
Well, thank you all for attending this meeting. I see that we have, if there's anyone who has any additional comments, we're going to allow you guys to speak right now. And if not, we're going to go ahead and close the meeting. So if there's anyone who has any comments, we want to thank you all for attending.
I'm sorry, Beverly, did you raise your hand again?
Oh,
I
yes.
apologize.
Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just want to ask because, and thank you guys. I think you're doing an extraordinary job, Gus and Michael. Thank you so much. I know a lot of work's gone into this, but I think we are not on the same page and working with community like Greenbrier was worked with as far as pushing the connectivity from Lake Cliff to Founders to the Trinity. I think including whether or not we keep the flyover, because when I drive over that thing, it's in horrible shape. It makes me nervous to drive on it, much less to walk on it. And I guess could be, if it's, I just don't know about all the details enough to say our community supports it. Will we have an ability to have a meeting to talk about those transitions and to see if we really support that? And particularly as it relates to that road cutting through the park. Maybe it's just our little neighborhood, but it's just my question. Are we going to have an ability to talk about this with planners or with I don't know if it's Parks Department or who is it?
So we're going to have to make a decision on what is the best path forward. I believe the best path forward is to go into detailed engineering and to request the Regional Transportation Council to potentially fund that, and to work with the city of Dallas on how to put in traffic calming on Greenbrier as part of that design. We would ask Gus, since we're transportation, and we would ask the councilman to engage the Parks Department for them to generate options. I think creating the pedestrian components all the way further south, not just up on this side of the community, but further south in the parts that you and others have talked about earlier. Is there a way, as we engineer the roadway side, the Parks Department can be looking at this structure and looking at the park options and try to do that as an integrated team? I think the only way to solve this is to finish the planning phase and then to get involved in the design phase. You got Don showing detailed designs of which he's creating that we would need to understand the implications to the streetcar, to the pedestrian components, and to the integration of the park components. So I would like to see if we can get to a position where the transportation plan stays fixed and create an opportunity in some form or fashion to permit the city to then take the ball and advance the park components, and then give us a chance to then integrate the transportation concept, a connection over to the street with an offset intersection, minimizing traffic to and from Greenbrier. And how do we best do it? I don't know. The only way I know how to do that is to get involved in the next engineering phase of the transportation project. Also, at the same time, hearing parks and fire department and others weigh in with regard to what turning radius they need with regard to the design and so on and so forth. So we don't go down a path and we hit a fatal flaw with another part of city government. But I don't know if we still have the councilman, here, but I think it's a conversation Gus needs to have with his city departments and with the councilman, given everything the community has said, and give us whatever direction they want us to do with regard to finishing our particular report, so I can then get into the next phase of this project.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I agree with you. I mean, it sounds like that's the best path forward. But this is a transportation plan, because that's what you do. But I don't want to leave out the pedestrian part emphasis. I'd like them to be equally weighed.
I think we've hit a home run that there's a huge park benefit. And I think transportation needs to sit and let the park elements proceed as part of that particular process. Let our plan concept sit, not advance, and let the city advance the park concept, because I think there's a potential home run now that if we go to the viaducts and take a lot of those roadway connections off of the western side of the community, reducing the traffic in the western side of the community, it creates a huge park opportunity for the community that I think you need to let the city grab the ball and go down that particular path. But I think there's a huge opportunity here. And I think it's being created by going to the two, updating the viaducts and turning one into a pedestrian component and the roadway component going to the other component. I think it triggers a huge opportunity for the community. And I think transportation sits back and lets the community look at the structure that it wishes to inherit, see what it wishes to do with it or not, and see what options the parks and any other function of city government wishes to weigh in. And our transportation stops and lets the park component advance to see how it impacts our transportation, and give the community and the Parks Department the ball.
Appreciate
That's
that.
what I think it is, but I think our
Mhm.
transportation vision is creating a huge park opportunity. That's my opinion.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Exactly, because once you have to, in order to demolish, you have to decommission. If you decommission, it's no longer your responsibility. I did this on Ron Kirk pedestrian bridge. We basically, when it was decommissioned, once the new bridge opened up, it was decommissioned, and then it became a park, basically.
But
And
remember,
yeah,
I'm translating for you. When you use the term decommission, you're turning the responsibility over to the city,
yes,
and the city
exactly,
controls its own destiny.
exactly. And
So
one thing I know, one thing
you're
I,
communicating to yourself. You work at the city.
yes, sir.
You then have the ball to turn it into what you wish it to be because it's under your
Right.
control.
Right. And I'll just say one thing. Once there are columns in the levees right now, and I will say this about the levees. Once you remove something, you can't put it back. So there's a bit of a grandfathering effect to it. And so any type of structure in the levees that's there pre-Katrina basically could be turned into an attribute. So I'm looking at this from an infrastructure point of view as
Okay,
well.
I'm going to say it one more time. I think the abandoned roadway structure, which you agree with, it's no longer a roadway structure, is now at the control of the city of Dallas.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank
Anything
you.
else for us today? Any other comments?
No, I think most of them have been answered, or folks have hopped on and commented verbally. We're going to go ahead and end the meeting. This meeting will be posted online. It's being recorded, so you all can watch it back at a later date.